Lords today is to discuss a very significant bill. A bill that would enable individuals to end their own life with the assistance of someone else. The person that's been spearheading this charge to give greater liberty to individuals on this matter is Baroness Meacher, and I'm delighted that we can be joined by Molly now. Welcome to the programme. You're standing outside Parliament where there is a protest, I believe, in favour of this legislation, which will be discussed in the Lords later today. Why is it so important for you?
It's incredibly important because the current law leaves dying people to suffer unbearably on only a minority of cases, but each and every one of those cases is absolutely appalling. People, for example, just vomiting all the time, night and day, and they're allergic to an antiemetic. The palliative care services can't help them, or they may have a fungating wound from cancer coming through their cheek, for example, emitting the most appalling pungent smell. And apparently doctors say that just clears the wards, all the patients have to move out. But that patient can't move, that dying person can't move, they want to die, and so on. Motor neurone disease. There are certain really horrendous things that happen to people. It's a minority, but no civilized society should allow this kind of thing to happen. That's why we need the bill today, and we need it as soon as we can possibly get it through both houses.
To some extent, we already have assisted dying in this country. It's just only the reserve of a privileged elite who can take a flight out to Switzerland. To what extent have you seen opposition to this bill?
Well, a small number of people do oppose. You know, the 84% of the population support it, but that means that, 20% don't. And mainly it's because of people's religious views. You know, the religious leaders, people like the Archbishop, they have their religious ideas and a personal view, and that's up to them. But 80% of people who say themselves that they are religious support this bill. So religion should not be a bar to supporting this bill. It just depends on what you think God is, really. So 86% of disabled people support this bill. Our opponents talk about, disabled people, vulnerable people. Disabled people want this bill more than anybody else, actually, believe it or not. So, they're a minority, that's the point.
The worry with some people who perhaps worry about the ability of an individual to be completely cognizant or with their own person, they worry that people will feel like they're a burden to society, that they may not want to take their own life but feel will be sort of pressured into it. Are there any safeguards in the bill to prevent that?
There are so many safeguards, I tell you. Some people say there are too many, but a former Supreme Court judge in Australia, where they have assisted dying, say that the idea of relatives pressurising people to take an assisted death is not. This issue has not arisen. It has not arisen in Australia. So this is just people who, for their own reasons, usually religious, may not support us, a small minority. They cook up these ideas, but then they don't have validity because there are no safeguards at all at the moment. Dying people want some help, don't get it, and they go off and try and kill themselves. 9 out of 10 people fail, but some of them do it through violent and horrible and dangerous ways. So there are no safeguards at the moment, no formal safeguards. People are starving themselves to death without any safeguards. Do you know what I mean? If there were relatives pressurising them, they would be doing it now. We are going to have a safeguarded system. People will be much safer, actually. And in fact, most relatives are trying to persuade their dying relative not to take their life, to carry on living. So the great majority of relatives are actually on the other side from the one supposed by our opponents.